Chapter 2: The Paradox of Responsibility and Your Personal Dream. The duty of being a mother of 3 sons and the pursuit of inner calling. There is a moment in every person's life when the heart quietly whispers a question that shakes the foundation of everything we thought we knew. Who am I beyond what I do for others? For a mother, especially one shaped by both Eastern duty and Western freedom, this question becomes both a calling and a conflict. It is not merely about finding time for oneself, it is about rediscovering one's own soul after years of giving it away. The birth of responsibility. Motherhood begins with a sense of wonder and ends with a lifetime of responsibility. The day a child is born, the mother is reborn. Her life, once guided by personal ambitions, becomes centered around care, protection, and sacrifice. For a mother of 3 sons, the demands multiply not only in the physical world, meals, homework, discipline, but in the emotional and spiritual world as well. Each son carries a different energy, a different dream, and a different struggle, and the mother becomes the invisible thread holding them all together. Responsibility is sacred. It teaches discipline, compassion, and endurance, yet it can also become a prison if misunderstood. Many women, especially those raised in Eastern traditions, are taught that their worth is measured by how much they give up, not by what they create. Duty becomes a virtue and self-expression a luxury. From an early age, many of us are told your happiness is found in your children's success. But as the years pass and the children begin to live their own lives, an emptiness slowly rises from within. It is not regret, it is the soul's longing to live its own story. This is a paradox. The more responsible we are, the less free we feel, and yet the less responsible we become, the more guilty we feel. So how do we reconcile the two? The answer lies in balance, the same law that governs happiness and success. Responsibility and personal dreams are not enemies. They are 2 sides of the same coin. One grounds us in love, the other elevates us toward purpose. The Western ideal and the Eastern reality. To live between 2 worlds, the East and the West, is to carry 2 philosophies of life in one heart. The Western culture encourages individuality. Follow your dream. Be who you are. Don't let anyone hold you back. The Eastern culture emphasizes harmony. Fulfill your duty. Honor your family. And put others before yourself. When these two meet within one person, a storm brews quietly inside. You are told to chase your dream, but also to be humble. You are encouraged to find your purpose, but warned not to appear selfish. You learn to love yourself, but only after everyone else's needs are met. The Western world celebrates the pursuit of dreams, the lone artist painting under the stars, the entrepreneur defying all odds, the woman who dares to redefine her own but The Eastern world reminds us that dreams without virtue are empty, that success without humility leads to isolation. Each side holds a truth, and each side can become a burden if misunderstood. In the West, ego often seen as confidence. In the East, ego is seen as a shadow that must be tamed. But both cultures struggle with the same question: how do we pursue the self without losing the soul? For a mother shaped by both worlds, this paradox is personal. You might find yourself sitting at the table where one voice whispers, "You deserve more than this," while another insists, "You should be grateful for what you already have." But gratitude does not mean stagnation. To be thankful is not to stop growing. It is to grow with awareness. Likewise, ambition does not mean selfishness. To dream is not to abandon responsibility. It is to expand it. The challenge is not choosing one culture over the other, but learning how to let both dance together within you. The suppression of the ego. In many spiritual teachings, the ego is the enemy. It is portrayed as the root of pride, anger, and attachment. We are told to suppress it, to silence it, to dissolve it completely in order to find peace. But this too can be misunderstood. The ego is not evil. It is simply the identity that believes it must protect us from pain. It wants recognition, love, validation, and when denied, it becomes loud. Many women suppress their ego so deeply that they forget they even have one. They no longer say, "I want," but only "they need." They no longer ask, "What do I love?" but only, "What must I do?" The suppression of the ego, when taken too far, does not lead to enlightenment. It leads to emptiness. The truth is not to kill the ego, but to educate it. A mother's ego, when purified, becomes her courage. It is the voice that says, "I too am a soul deserving of growth." Imagine a candle lighting other candles. The flame that gives light does not diminish, it multiplies. So it is with the soul. When you nurture yourself, your children do not receive less, they receive more. They see a mother who lives with joy, not duty, who breathes passion, not exhaustion. They learn that love is not sacrifice, it is expression. The ego, when alive with purpose, becomes a bridge between self and service. It helps us dream, act, and express. Without it, we become invisible to ourselves. The inner conflict of dreams. Dreams are fragile things. They begin as whispers, quiet longings in the stillness of night. But over time, as life grows busier and responsibilities pile up, they fade into silence. A woman may forget her dream not because she didn't care, but because she cared too much for others. Yet dreams never die, they only wait. There are moments, perhaps, when the house is quiet and the night is long, when the inner voice returns, "Remember who you are." You might see yourself as you once were, a young woman with ambition, creativity, faith, and courage. You may recall the passion you felt for writing, art, teaching, or helping others. But then, as quickly as the memory arises, guilt follows. Who am I to want more when my family needs me? This is the paradox of the nurturing zone. It feels selfish even for breathing differently. But the truth is this. When you fulfill your dream, you teach your children the language of courage. You show them that love is not a limitation, it is the evolution. You learn that one can be responsible and inspired, grounded, and free. To deny your dream is to teach them fear. To live your dream is to teach them faith. So perhaps the question is not whether you should pursue your dream, but how you can do it with grace. Balance is not doing everything at once. It is doing one thing with full presence. The paradox of service and self. Many people believe that meaningful life is one of service. We serve our family, our community, and our faith. But service without self-understanding becomes mechanical. It is like pouring from an empty cup. The paradox is that true service begins with the self-realization. Only when we understand our own needs, fears, and dreams can we truly uplift others. For a mother, this realization often comes later in life, when the children are grown and the silence returns to the home. At first, the quiet feels lonely, then it becomes sacred. In that silence, the soul begins to speak again. It asks, now that you have given so much, what will you create next? This is not rebellion, it is resurrection. It is the moment when a woman stops living as a role and starts living as a being. She becomes more than a mother, wife, or caregiver. She becomes herself, the consciousness behind all roles. And when she finds herself, she serves more deeply than ever before, not from obligation, but from overflow. The meeting point of East and West. In the East teaches humility and the West teaches individuality. Then the bridge between them is authenticity. Authenticity means living in truth without arrogance or submission. It means honoring your roots while allowing your wings to grow. In Eastern culture, humility often means silence. In Western culture, expression often means dominance. But real humility is not silence, it is sincerity. And real expression is not arrogance, it is courage. A modern woman who lives between these two worlds must become her own philosopher. She must question the teachings that once defy her and choose which ones to keep. From the East, she may keep compassion, respect, gratitude. From the West, she might keep self-expression, confidence, and freedom. Together, they form the balanced zone, grounded in tradition, yet open to transformation. This is the evolution of consciousness, moving beyond cultural definitions to live as universal being, to be born humble and brave, giving and fulfilled, selfless and self-aware. This is the middle path that Buddha, Lao Tzu, and even modern psychology point toward. Carl Jung One say that the goal of life is not perfection but wholeness. Wholeness means integrating all parts of the self, the mother, the dreamer, the lover, the thinker, into one harmonious being. The journey of integration. To integrate duty and dream, one must first accept that both are sacred. The problem is not that we have responsibilities, it's that we forget they can coexist with joy. When we see motherhood as a calling rather than a burden, and dreams as a gift rather than a distraction, the two begin to merge naturally. This integration happens slowly through awareness. When you cook for your children, you bring mindfulness to each action. When you write, paint, or create, you do it without guilt, knowing that your joy uplifts the home's energy. When you rest, you remind yourself that rest is not laziness, it is preparation for deeper giving. The journey toward meaning does not demand abandoning one path for another, it calls for merging them. It is not about choosing between responsibility and freedom. It is about understanding that freedom is found in responsible living, and responsibility becomes meaningful only when rooted in freedom. The quiet victory of the soul. There comes a day when you realize you no longer need to prove anything to your family, your culture, even yourself. You are at peace with your choices. You love your sons deeply, and you also love your solitude. You serve your family, but you also serve your purpose. You belong to both the East and the West, yet are bound by neither. This is a quiet victory of the mature soul, the freedom to live authentically. It is not loud, not celebrated, but deeply peaceful. The paradox remains, but you have learned to walk within it, like a dancer balancing on a moving floor. You move gracefully between love and independence, service and creation, giving and receiving. You no longer suppress your ego, you guide it with wisdom. You no longer fight your culture, you harmonize with it. You no longer chase dreams, you live them gently, daily, in your words, your actions, and your being. In this harmony, life begins to feel meaningful again, not because you achieved something extraordinary, but because you became whole, finding true meaning. The true meaning of life is not found in doing more or being less. It's found in understanding why we do what we do and who we become in the process. For the mother of three sons, meaning comes not from perfection but from presence. It is found in the way you listen, the way you forgive, the way you grow. It is found in the courage to say, my life too has value beyond service. Meaning is born when love and purpose meet, when what you give to the world is an expression of who you truly are. It is not selfish to dream, it is divine to create. It is not wrong to desire peace, it is sacred to seek truth. The world does not need another martyr, it needs conscious souls who love without losing themselves. It needs mothers who raise not just sons but awareness, who teach through example that life can be both responsible and radiant. The circle of life and legacy. When you live this way, honoring both your duty and your dreams. You give your children a priceless legacy. They grow up knowing that love is not an obligation but inspiration. They learn that success is not the absence of struggle but the presence of balance. One day, when your sons become men, they will remember not just what you did for them, but who you were, a mother who loved deeply, served faithfully, and lived truthfully. That memory becomes their compass. Your life becomes their map. Your meaning becomes their inheritance. And in that, you find that the paradox of responsibility and personal dream was never a conflict. It was a divine design. One teaches humility, the other teaches authenticity. Together, they teach wholeness. Epilogue: the harmony within. When we look back in life, what remains are not the roles we play, but the consciousness we brought into them. To be a mother, a dreamer, a bridge between East and West, these are not contradictions, but dimensions of the same soul. Meaningful living is not about escaping responsibility or chasing freedom. It is about merging both into a single melody, the music of an awakened life. In the end, the true paradox resolves itself. Responsibility without self-awareness becomes sacrifice. Dreams without love become ego. But when love guides both, duty becomes devotion and ambition becomes art. That is the secret of meaningful and prosperous life. Thank you so much for listening, and please tune in for chapter 3.